to the Goody Room, your one-stop shop for everything movies, TV, and more. We know you want the goodies. Welcome to the Goody Room. I'm your host, Matt the Nachos. With me always is the donkey to my Shrek, Frankie Rock. How we doing, Frank?
Oh, we're doing really good. I'm super excited. I saw that, it's always nice when I log in and you put the episode number of what it is. And I was surprised that this is episode 17. So that made me happy. And I guess it's all right seeing you, I suppose.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I believe it's episode 17. I was kind of taking a guess. So now I have to go confirm to fact check the fact that this is, in fact, episode 17.
Oh, well then. Yeah. That.
Yeah. So thanks for making us look bad.
Well, you know what? Maybe do it correctly.
It's episode 16.
Oh, is it episode 16?
Yeah.
Well, that's on you.
It's my fault.
Yes, it is your fault.
Whatever. I'll take the blame for that one.
Whatever. If that's the mistake you're gonna make, great.
Anyways, moving on. Whole show's ruined now.
Well, yeah. Right. Let's just start over.
Let's just what? Your dad's the only one that's listening. So
that's right. Play the theme song again. Play the theme song. Roll the theme song.
Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it as always. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Show us a little love. Give us some recommendations. Ask us some questions. Frank, he loves to answer all your questions incorrectly.
That's
no matter
right.
How outrageous your questions might be.
That's correct. That is correct. Half the time I like to give poor responses just to make people mad.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Anyways, so we got Streamer Botch today. We got a few good items here. We got NASCAR Full Speed, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which Frank and I just saw this weekend. American Fiction was up for Best Picture at this year's Academy Awards. I'd watched it, recommended it to Frank. He actually was out to visit. I showed that movie, and we both really enjoyed it, so we got it on today's episode. And then we're going to talk, finally, it's been out for a little bit. We're going to talk Avatar, The Last Airbender. And then we got a new segment, something we're going to try. Frank, he's got a lot of hot takes, and I like to hear his hot takes, and I like to just completely shut all of them down. So we're going to do Frank's hot takes later. And he's, if you can see on the YouTube, he's over here chuckling because he knows I'm just gonna rip into him on these.
I'm laughing because I presented a few hot takes before we started recording, and you didn't even let him get out of the gate. You just shut him right down, and it's like, you know what? Shut up! I don't like you anymore.
And we're going to go ahead on that note and get into Streamer Botch. First up is NASCAR Full Speed. So NASCAR Full Speed is a little docuseries that's on Netflix. If you like Drive to Survive, which follows the F1 circuit, you will indeed love NASCAR Full Speed. And the whole docuseries is last year's season. They do kind of like the playoff race. I believe the first episode is them actually to determine the drivers that are going to be in the playoff races, and then they show every race and how things are kind of building, and a little bit behind the scenes of the drivers as well too, which I always really enjoy. So Frank, I believe you saw this too. I had recommended this to you. I want to know your thoughts.
You had recommended it to me. I had also seen the trailer, and it caught my attention. Netflix is always trying to promote their stuff when you log in, and I really enjoyed it. Surprise, surprise. This is yet another sports documentary where I was fully invested. I probably watched it in about a day and a half. Couldn't get enough of it. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about NASCAR. I thought it was cool to see the behind the scenes stuff, and I guess it shouldn't have surprised me, but it did surprise me that Ricky Bobby on how he lived his life and his house and his wife and just the things that these guys are spending money on, not too far off. I was like, wow, that's actually, I thought it was funny to me. And I will tell you, if you're like me, by the end, if you watch Drive to Survive, or no, excuse me, Full Speed, you'll probably like quietly hate Joey Logano by the time you're done watching this documentary. All these guys introduce themselves with like, I'm not here to be anybody's friend. But when Joey Logano says it personally, I'm like, dude, no one wants to be your friend there.
He's actually one of the most like hated drivers because he is super aggressive.
I can see why. I can see why. Like this guy,
he's caused a lot of accidents. But honestly, that's NASCAR. You have to be aggressive, else
sure.
Sometimes you have to make those moves.
I get that. But just hearing him talk as a person, I was just like, oh, you just seem despicable,
Yeah, I mean, but he backs it up. He's one of the best drivers in NASCAR. And I mean, and honestly, they all those guys do that stuff.
Sure.
Right? It's just, he's just upfront about it. And, I got to give him credit. Like he's trying to win the race. It's true. He's a professional. He's not there to be your friend. Right. And
I'm not. Oh, good. Sorry.
No, you go, because you already interrupted me. So you just go.
You know what? Don't start. Okay. You don't have the right clearances. All right.
Oh, you want to talk about clearances?
Clearances. Huh? Yes. Clearances. You got to go through Richard. Okay.
I told your dad to talk to you. I got the clearance.
He didn't talk to me at all. I have no messages from my dad about the clearances. Anyway,
continue.
I understand like these guys aren't going to be best friends off the track or anything. Like I get that. And I would probably, if I was in the sport, I'd be the same way, but like, I don't know, Joey Logano, there was something about him. It was like that. I think it's Step Brothers, that scene in Step Brothers. I don't know what it is about your face, but I just want to punch it. Or I got that vibe from him. Not saying that I'm going to go hunt Joey Logano down and punch him. I would not. I'm not a physical person like that, but he definitely was sending that type of vibe out. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely do. And like I said, a lot of drivers aren't fans of his, but that's how he drives, and that's the reputation he has. But I did enjoy the series. It got me hyped up for the upcoming NASCAR season. I know my buddies and we watched a few of the big races, and I'm a fan, like I said, of Drive to Survive, which is another great series on Netflix. It follows, again, like I was saying, the Formula One circuit. So if you're a big fan of that, you'll be a fan of this, trust me. And it was absolutely a stream for me.
I would agree. And I'm hopeful that kind of like Drive to Survive, where it's multiple seasons. And I believe is Drive to Survive. Is it like a different season or a different part of a season
It's each new season, yes, and what happens. The reason Drive to Survive is even better, given a little bit off into that to kind of give people, if you are interested in NASCAR but haven't seen Drive to Survive, what I like about it too is the drivers constantly change teams.
Sure,
and that's where a lot of the drama happens. I know I have friends that are watching it right now and they're like, oh, I love this one driver. And I'm like, keep watching because it gets better, because he switches like team, doesn't work out there, switches to another team. Then next thing you know, he's out of NASCAR, or not NASCAR. He's out of F1 and not driving anymore because he doesn't have a seat. And then he comes back as like a reserve driver. So like, that's the kind of drama that goes on. Like they just even announced in the news, this was a while back now, but Lewis Hamilton, one of the basically best drivers F1's ever seen, and he was with Mercedes and won all kinds of world championships with Mercedes. He's moving to Ferrari.
Oh yeah. Anybody on Team Nissan, as they called it in Gran Turismo? Like, I wonder how many times Orlando Bloom said Team Nissan throughout that movie.
No, because they right. they don't sponsor, they don't have a NASCAR, or not NASCAR. I keep saying that, an F1 team.
Sure.
So no.
Yeah, I asked that question because I would hope that I'm gonna keep mixing them up too. Look at us.
You started it.
You started it. You started it.
Lock it up.
You lock it up. Anyway, I would hope NASCAR Full Speed would continue to do multiple seasons because, like I said, I learned a lot. I really enjoyed how Dale Earnhardt Jr. popped in to give his 2 cents every now and again. Who's the guy that basically had, he's driving for a team but owns his own team or owns Michael Jordan?
Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed it all, even the Joey Logano stuff. Even though I kind of think I might hate him, I'm not sure. I enjoyed all the drivers, but I enjoyed the Denny Hamlin segments the most. I just felt like he just had so much going on that was involved with NASCAR, but it wasn't just the driving. You got to see like the business side of it. Now, that's what I found most interesting personally.
Nice. So, yeah, it sounds like it was a stream for you too then.
Oh, yeah, not only a stream, but hey, Netflix, give us another season. I would love to watch it.
Oh, there you go. It's a stream from both of us. Next up, we have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So, if you listen to the last podcast, we talked about upcoming movies, and Ghostbusters was on that list. And I had seen the trailer. I reached out to Frank. I said, the trailer looks pretty good for this. I don't know what your thoughts are, but maybe I'm getting a little too overhyped about it. And he said, no, I'm actually really interested to see it. I like some of the other ones. And we looked again at the date. He was actually coming out to visit because I'm in Pittsburgh. He's in Ohio. And I said, did we just talk each other into going to see this movie when you come out here? So, we got the tickets and we went and saw it. And, it's a fun fan film. I don't think it's winning any awards. It wasn't mind-blowing.
I think for a Ghostbusters movie, it hit all the right notes. I'm just glad it wasn't a retread or, with Frozen Empire. No, that's the new one. Excuse me. With Afterlife, the previous one, they essentially redid Gozer, who was like the ghost from the first one. So I'm glad this one did its own thing. But I think with the last two Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire and Afterlife, Disney needs to take note on if you're going to have if you're going to bring back legacy characters like in Star Wars, these Ghostbusters movie, they hit a really sweet spot of the old characters come in, they have their scenes, they're quick, but they don't overshadow the new characters at all. Like the new character, it's still the new characters movie. And I think that they hit a really nice balance in both this new one and the last one with that sort of thing. That's one of the things I liked about it. Also, it's funny. It's good fun. It's Ghostbusters. I think I was telling you, on the way out of the theater, that if I was a little kid and this was the Ghostbusters movie that I went to see, I think it would have probably been my favorite, but I grew up watching the originals like you. So I enjoyed it. You go ahead and tell them what happened to me during the movie though. Cause I feel like that's coming.
No, I was going to talk about actually, you're talking about how funny it was, and there's some good jokes in there. The woman in front of us thought they were overly hilarious.
The woman in front of us was having the absolute best time in the theater, and I was a little jealous because it's like, are we watching the same movie?
Yeah, and what Frank's, he's hinting to over here is I had to give him a few little nudges because he decided to take a little Frank snooze during the movie.
That's right. Well, at Cinemark, they have, if you're not familiar with Cinemark theaters, ladies and gentlemen, they have those recliner seats. And, we had been out all day watching basketball games with friends that, all that fresh air got to me. And I leaned my seat all the way back to the point where it was making those like fart noises, the leather against the leather.
Yeah.
And what do Frank dream of when he takes a little Frank snooze? But before we went into the theater, didn't even know this was going to happen. Matt goes, "Hey, they got blankets for sale in case you want one." Thank God I didn't get a blanket. I would have been out.
I've never seen that before, and I know some theaters are like that, but like at the Cinemark I go to, that was the first time I had seen these blankets in the concession area. It was a little cozy blanket, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Who's buying a blanket at the movie theater?"
I know at the Cinemark out in Ohio that I go to, I have seen people bring in blankets. Ever since I started going to the theater with the recliner seats, I've seen people with these big bags bringing blankets, and I'm thinking like, they don't need a blanket. They're just sneaking in snacks, which, is smart. And I'm sure they do. But now the theater caught on because, like, there's that person like, oh, I forgot my blanket. Oh, I'll just buy a Cinemark blanket. And I'm sure they're like so crappy. But
yeah, getting back to the movie,
yeah,
again, it's fun. They hit all the right notes and nostalgia. Like Frank said, I agree. I thought the old characters was a nice balance. Bill Murray was like in what, like 2-3 scenes, and that
I'm
was
going
like
to give him 1.5 scenes. He was in 1.5 scenes. Yeah.
yeah, and they were just perfect comedy relief when he came in both of them.
I think the original Ghostbuster that got the most screen time was Dan Aykroyd. Which, if they're going to give the most screen time to the older cast, that's who you give it to. And Matt, you and I both have a big affinity for Dan Aykroyd, so I'm not mad about how much. Yeah.
He's just continuing his mission from God.
That's right. He's on a mission from God. I'm curious, where would this rank for you? And I think there's the 2 original, 2 new ones, and then there was that the one with the girls, which I actually think is kind of funny. It's not at the top of my list, but I've watched it a couple times. It's funny.
I mean, the originals are still, I think, number one, right?
Right.
You're never gonna
No.
repeat that. I would put, I believe it was the one before this, Afterlife, like you mentioned. That would probably be my number 3 because I did enjoy that one, and I'd
Right.
probably put after that.
Yeah, I think that would be my order too. I always find it. I guess maybe I saw Ghostbusters because Ghostbusters 2 was like the first one I had saw.
Yeah,
I never understood the hate that it gets. Apparently, people hate Ghostbusters 2, but I think it's just as not as good as the original. Doesn't top it in any way, but I think it's a fine. It's an okay sequel. It still makes me laugh. I like the story. I like the slime and just those 4 together cracking jokes while busting ghosts. I mean, you just really can't beat it. It's a good recipe.
yeah, I agree. So, I wouldn't rush to the theater to see this. I
No.
would wait, and it's what it's is this going to be on a streaming service? I forget if this
I
comes out.
It's a Sony movie, so I wouldn't be surprised if it pops up on Netflix eventually, but I would say if I were you, I wouldn't rush out to see it, but I would wait for it to be on sale digitally on Amazon. For instance, the other night, a couple episodes ago, we talked about the Hunger Games prequel, and I just kept forgetting, like, oh yeah, I gotta watch it. Oh yeah, I gotta watch it. It was like $7 to buy versus like the $6 to rent. And I was like, oh, I'll just pay another dollar and own this. And I think that's what I will probably do with this movie because I know I will watch it again eventually. Probably not right away, but I definitely would say stream it, but at a bargain price or wait for it on a streaming service that you already have.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I'm actually really excited for this one, American Fiction. So I was looking for a movie a few weeks ago to watch, and Poor Things was actually going to be the one I put on. I did end up watching Poor Things. There'll probably be in another episode. That's streaming right now on Hulu, I believe, still. But I started it and I was like, I'm not really in the mood for this type of movie. I'm gonna go and maybe search for something else. So, the Oscars were coming up. I said, okay, well, let's see what some of the other best pictures are. And I came across this American Fiction and I put on like the little trailer, had me cracking up. And I was like, all right, I got to find where I can, see this and watch this online. So it was streaming on MGM Plus. So what I did is we've brought this tip up many times before. I did the free trial for 7 days, and I got to watch this for free. I actually ended up buying it because, you know, as you guys know, I said it earlier, Frank came out, and
You had
I
a
wanted,
guest in the house.
I wanted him to see it, so I ended up buying it because I just enjoyed it that much. And what it's about is it's about an African American, you know, teacher, professor, author. He, you know, is teaching a class. He starts to have a little bit of anger issues just towards the world in general, and especially about the books he's putting out. They're very well written books, tons of character development, great stories, but no publishers are buying them. So the university he teaches at forces him to go on a leave of absence. And, you know, he goes to this book festival where he was already planned to speak. He does like a Q&A panel, and there's like no one there, right? And this is actually what the trailer was. And he goes into the next room because there was a bigger author doing a Q&A at the same time. And, you know, as another African American author, and she was reading an excerpt from her book that was just simply named "We Lives in the Ghetto," and I was
We
just,
lives in the ghetto. We
yeah, like real slang, and the whole book is written like that, just like nah, no, I mean, you know, and I was
It was
just,
written in Ebonics. It would be the correct term.
yeah, well, you're the English major, you know.
Hey, you know, whatever.
That's why I wanted Frank to see it. Yeah, so he's like, why is this simply written book that is on a lower, like, I guess, reading level so more popular than the books I'm writing that are very complex? And actually his agent explains it in like the perfect way, which again, I'm not giving anything away here, but he explains it like Johnny Walker. So there's red, there's black, and there's blue. And he says the one is, you know, awful, the other one's less awful, the other one's good. He's like, you know, no one buys the good one because it's expensive, right? But it tastes the best. They buy the cheap one, the red, because it's simple, and at the end of the day, people just want to get drunk. And
Right.
I was just like, yeah, I mean, it's simple, and some people need simple. So he tries to prove a point, and he writes a simple book. Well, it ends up being like this massive hit, and then that's the story takes off from there.
And, you know, there is so much more because I had also watched the trailer when they had put it out online, and I thought, yes, this is going to be very funny. Not something I'm going to rush out and see, but definitely one that is on my radar. Matt essentially described the trailer, but the movie itself is so much more than this trailer, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Not that I wanted more from watching the trailer. It just was one of those like, oh, we're going in this direction. That's interesting, and it played really well. I thought I will tell you the movie had me hooked probably within the end of the opening scene before we even get the title or the credits coming up. I was laughing my butt off. I thought it was hysterical, and it kind of continues on for there. But it definitely, Matt, you were telling me, you know, you had explained it to me that it has a lot of serious moments, but I think the serious moments with the humor, it struck a good balance because in those situations, how would you not be making these uncomfortable jokes or just kind of you got to have a little humor in that type of environment.
Right. And now that I think about it too, you know, because that's the other part about it is I didn't actually, when I saw the trailer, I didn't expect it to have those types of moments and
Sure.
scenes. And I was like, oh, this is, now that I'm thinking about it, it's complex like his books. And I think that's why I like it, is because it was more than just a comedy. There was, you know, some drama and like life, and there was
Right.
this really nice balance between the two.
I thought what really hit the right notes for me was it takes place, what is it, Boston or Baltimore, where
Boston.
Boston, but it's on the seaside of Boston where you get a lot of beach scenery, and for me that grabs my attention. And there's the musical score is like slow jazz, and it's just real calming and relaxing, and it just puts you in a good spot to just kind of enjoy what's going on, whether it be laugh out loud hysterical or you know, super serious. But I just was really impressed by the way the movie was shot and edited too. There was that one scene, I won't give it away, where the scene had ended and it was like 2 seconds later. I was like, wait a minute, that scene is really funny because this, and you're like, yeah, that's why it's funny. And it just, so I liked how it wasn't just like slapstick humor, like it was humor that you really had to think about. And that's one of the things I appreciated most about this movie.
Yeah, so obviously it's a stream for me, guys. I wanted to seek this movie out. I bought it just so I could watch it again and Frank could see it. Definitely go and watch this movie.
I would stream it for sure. I would watch it again. Jeffrey Wright, who plays the main character, whether you know him by name or not, you have seen Jeffrey Wright at least in the last couple of years. He was one of the major characters on Westworld. He's the new Commissioner Gordon. Felix Leiter in the Daniel Craig James Bond movie. So I remember seeing him in Casino Royale in high school, and I was like, man, this guy is in like 3 scenes, but he was a heck of a good actor for those 3 scenes. And from Casino Royale onward, you always see him pop up, and I just feel like he just continues to impress, and like a fine wine, has just gotten better with age. And, I'm glad to see that he's getting these major roles. I really did enjoy him in the movie, but his brother, I think, stole the show for me. I'll let you guys discover who the brother is. I thought he had some of the funniest scenes. It is up for Best Picture. It was up for Best Picture. It didn't win. I don't think it. I'm not saying it shouldn't have been nominated, but I think the right movie did win. But I would still stream this movie for sure. If you see it on streaming or you're just like, I want to buy a movie, definitely pick it up. It's definitely worth your time.
There you have it. Another double stream from the boys.
That's right.
All right, and finally for Streamer Botch today, we have Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've been waiting a minute to talk about this.
Same.
This was awesome. I flew through this season so much. I don't understand what all the hate is about.
I don't either, and it's funny because I, like you, also flew through this. My wife and I, because we watched the cartoon together and we watched the sequel series, so she was interested to watch it too. I watched the first episode and I just proudly announced that we will be going at my streaming speed for this one. We're not going to do an episode, wait a week, do another episode. I said, no, we're going to knock this out. And we did. I'm glad that she agreed because it was really good. And again, where the hate is coming from, these people, I feel like, just, I don't know, get a life or something. I feel like the hate is, we're just hating on this just to hate on it.
Yeah, and it's 8 episodes. Like, I thought it was good. I thought the character adaptations were spot on. I really enjoyed the casting that they did, especially for like the firebenders. Like, I thought, like, because those are some of the more iconic, I think, characters from the show that I always remember. Like, they had very specific just kind of things about them, and even really the whole cast. I mean, even Sokka, we had talked about. We really liked him.
So for those of you that aren't in the know, Dad, Avatar: The Last Airbender is about there were 4 nations that used to live in harmony, or however each nation, there's the Fire Nation, there's the Earthbenders, there's the water bending, and then the Airbenders. And they all can control elements through very fancy kung fu. That's the best way I can describe it. Well, the
very fancy kung fu.
Very fancy kung fu that every now and again. Huh?
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yes. And essentially, the Fire Nation feels some type of way about the Airbenders, so they lead a genocide.
Well, what it is that there's one avatar that comes, around, and it rotates between the different airbending, powers. So the next one up is Airbender, and the Fire Nation was looking to basically take control of the whole world. And the next avatar was supposed to be an Airbender, which is why they do a mass genocide of them.
They get every single one of them except the Avatar, who had run away for reasons that I'm not going to spoil for anybody. And he is frozen in time for 100 years. He's unthawed. At this point, the Fire Nation has essentially completely taken over. and it's his job to restore balance to the nations. And he's joined by Katara and Sokka. And the three leads do a great job. Matt and I had both agreed that the kid who played Sokka was just perfect. Like I honestly, there were moments where I was like, man, I don't know if I'm watching the real one or the cartoon, because I just felt like he was spot on and just kind of stole every scene he was in. But I think the real MVP, hands down, is the gentleman who played Uncle Iroh. And Iroh in the cartoon, it was my personal favorite character, and I will argue is the best character of the show.
Same.
Yeah. And a lot of Iroh's storyline only really comes in season 2 of the cartoon, but they moved it up for the show, and I'm not mad that they did it, because I was like, man, what if they don't get a second season? We're not going to see all that. But they put it in season. They moved most of it up to season 1. They still saved a few things, but there was that one episode between him and his nephew is out to hunt the Avatar because he's been banished, and his dad said, you can only come back if you bring me the Avatar. And his dad's like the Fire Nation Emperor.
The Fire Lord.
The Fire Lord. And the scenes between the nephew and the uncle are the best scenes. Translated over very well from the cartoon, because they were the best scenes in the cartoon as well. And that's what really sold it for me. And I was like, this is awesome. What about you? What did you think?
I mean, I loved it. It's a stream for me. You know, I was actually shocked that they didn't even have a multiple season deal already.
Right.
And I did see that they did get a deal for season 2 and 3. I also saw a stat that this is Netflix's most expensive series to make.
I can easily see it. And you know, that's one thing that I wanted to talk about too, is you can tell all the money was spent on not only the sets, the costumes. You could tell in certain scenes, though, the special effects, the budget was stretched, because there are some scenes that look gorgeous and they're just like, yes, this is what it should look like. Then there are a few scenes it's like, all right, obviously that didn't get the love and care that it needed, but
it wasn't the Flash.
It wasn't the Flash. No, nothing is as bad as the Flash. Well, maybe Power Rangers, the movie back in the day.
Yeah.
But no, I get it. Like the special effects in those bad areas, and I'm doing air quotes here. Bad areas, but like take you out of the show and ruin the show. Not so. You could just tell, like, the budget just didn't go to that particular episode.
And guys, nothing's ever going to match 100% to any cartoon or, you know, anything you see all the time. There's always going to have to be, you know, some liberties taken, right, to better help the story, or like Frank said, because maybe they don't know if they're going to get another season. They want to kind of go and get you to understand those characters a bit more. If you had a multi-season deal, sure, you could stretch the story out. But again, this is only 8 episodes long. So
right. And you think about it, each episode was like an hour long, and the shows were like 18 to 20 minutes. So each episode was essentially 3 episodes of the show. Now, did it translate exactly? No. Am I happy it didn't translate exactly? Yes. Here's why. I read probably too much. And
not you.
No, yeah, I know. It's like
not all those books on your shelf behind you.
I know. It's not even like a 1% of the books I own.
That's just one of your shelves.
That's one of my shelves. Yeah,
leather-bound books.
Anyway, I'm at a point now, whenever I read something that's going to be adapted, and yeah, I will admit that's one of the determiners if I'm going to read a book or not, because I like to go see the movie and be that snob. But the thing about it is, I like when a movie captures the spirit of the source material, because there's been many times where I've watched a movie like Gone Girl, which is almost an exact, if you've seen the movie, you've read the book. I remember sitting in the theater kind of bored, because I knew, I was like, all right, now this is going to happen. Now this is going to happen. Whereas when I read the book It, and then went to see the new adaptation, it was, the events played out very similarly, but different enough where I was surprised. This is how that Avatar was. it was still the show, had the spirit of the cartoon, but it played out differently enough. And I think that's better, because if you're expecting a play-by-play, then why even do it? You know?
Yeah. So it's a stream for me, stream for Frank.
That's right.
Go watch it.
Go watch it and stop hating on it.
Yeah. Don't be. No one likes a hater.
No one likes a hater. No one likes a hater. Even though we kind of hate on things, but you don't. Yeah, do as we say, not as we do.
This is our show. We can hate on whatever we want. When you get a show, you hate on the stuff that you want to hate on.
It's your show. You can hate if you want to. Yeah.
And our new segment here, Frank's hot take.
So here is a hot take. As Matt has always said, I sometimes come with hot takes. And to give you a little bit of background on this one, my wife over the last couple months has been watching the movie Encanto with our son, which is a movie, for whatever reason, I hadn't seen until recently. She came into the bedroom as I was reading, go figure, and said, I just watched it for the second time. Leo loves watching it. I love it. I love the music. And I was like, okay. Well, here's another thing about me. For someone that has hadn't yet to see Encanto, I use the expression, we don't talk about Bruno, quite a bit for someone that has not seen the movie where that reference comes from. And that's how she brought up that point. She goes, for someone that says that a lot, you'd think you would have saw the movie it comes from. And I was like, I guess you're right. Maybe I should watch it. So, the next time my son was like, wanted to watch it, I came in, I sat down, and, I'm watching it. It
was just delightful.
Say again?
You found it was just delightful.
I did find it was just delightful, but here's where I'm coming from.
Perfectly splendid.
It was perfectly splendid. When I found out it was by the same people that made Moana, that's what really, I was like, all right, this is obviously going to be quality then. And it was. But for years and years and years, I've been hearing nothing but like hateful things about the character Bruno from this movie. And I don't think it was you, but I asked someone once, I was like, hey, is Bruno even in the movie, or did they just talk with him about him? And someone, I don't know who this person was, but they didn't spoil it for me. They told me Bruno was dead. So I was like, oh, that's weird. But now,
technically he is dead. He is dead.
Technically, yes. Spoiler alert, he's not really dead. So we meet Bruno, and he's voiced by one of my favorite comedians, John Leguizamo. And I was like, this is just great. And, they're singing a whole song about why they don't talk about Bruno. Like the grandma's hating on, everybody's hating on Bruno. And here's my hot take. I've watched this movie and I've now thought about it for a week and a half. The only crime Bruno committed was that he loved his family too much. And that is my hot take.
How did I know you were going to say that?
Because I told you I was going to say that over the weekend.
How? I don't recall.
Yeah.
All right. March Madness got the best of me, and I don't recall. I'm not sure that's a hot take.
It's a hot take. Here's why it's a hot take.
Why? Well, yeah. Explain to me why.
If you got a movie where they literally not only wrote a song about hating on this guy, but this family gets together and it's like, and when we sing this song, we're going to dance this way about it. And then when you find out what really happened from Bruno's side of things, it's like, these people need to get over it. And it's like, accept this relative who just loves you.
Yeah, but they didn't know. The family didn't know. No one knew, Frank. No one knew.
Did anybody take the time to ask Bruno? No, they did not.
Because he wasn't around. He disappeared. He ran away.
I probably would have ran too if my family treated me like that. My family,
he saw a vision that he knew was going to, I guess, destroy the family, and he just ran away.
Maybe I was looking at my phone at that point. Anyway, but yeah, I think Bruno is getting too much hate, and everybody.
You know what the new phrase is going to be? We're going to say Frank doesn't talk about Bruno.
Frank doesn't talk about Bruno. No, I get to talk about Bruno. I get to talk about Bruno.
Frank doesn't understand Bruno.
I understand Bruno fine. There, babe.
Don't babe me, all right? You don't have the clearance.
I don't know, like it, and I will tell you, it wasn't because I put off watching this movie because I didn't want to see it. I just knew it just wasn't at the forefront of the list to see, and I'm glad I watched it. But like, I'm glad I now know like Bruno is not this bad person that for years I thought he was, and like, you know, I think I might just stop saying we don't talk about Bruno anymore because, you know, we should talk about Bruno. There, I said it.
I listen. The rest of us can talk about Bruno. You just can't talk about Bruno.
No, I get to talk about Bruno.
All right, you're probably the big shot at the valet tossing their keys.
Listen,
That's you.
You don't pay my bills, and until you start paying my bills, I get to talk about Bruno.
Well, and that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Catch us next time. Same streaming time, same streaming platform. Frank doesn't talk about Bruno.
I talk about Bruno. I talk about Bruno.
See you guys.